Games. Hi, my name is James, and this is James Loves Games. I'm interrupting your regularly scheduled Clubhouse Games video for today because today's a special day. It's my birthday. I am 36 years old, so I'm 2 adults, twice an adult. I don't know. But I'm not here to just talk about how awesome it is to still be alive. I'm here to talk about the awesome birthday present that my wife got for me. She got me this. The 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus Bluetooth gamepad. Let's go! Alright, so this is the 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus Bluetooth gamepad for the Nintendo Switch. Or at least, I bought it for the Nintendo Switch. I was really surprised with how nice this box was and the presentation overall. It was a lot heftier and higher quality of design and overall build than I was really expecting from such an inexpensive product. And as you can see on the box here, it's good for the Switch, Windows, Android, Mac, Steam, and Raspberry Pi for all of you avid Raspberry Pi gamers. But I would imagine most people probably got this for the Nintendo Switch. Anyway, so let's just get to it and slide this thing open. So this slides out. And like I said, this is a pretty sturdy box. If you're a collector, I think this would make a fine addition to anybody's collection because this thing is durable, and you can, if you're a recycler or zero waste kind of person, you can probably reuse this for other types of gift boxes too instead of just throwing it away. So you see it's got a nice little software support link right there in English and Chinese. Set that right there. And then there's a plastic cover over the whole thing that I thought was kind of unnecessary, but a nice touch. They go the extra mile to really make sure that they're protecting your product. And then comes to the controller itself, which I gotta say, from the pictures online, I didn't think it really looked all that good from the pictures online, but once you get it in your hands and see it in person and see it from all the angles, it's really impressive, and it's built, I gotta say, sorry Nintendo, but this thing is built way better and sturdier than anything that you guys have made this generation. I didn't buy a Pro controller mostly because of all the bad things that I had read about them online, specifically the D-pad on the Pro controllers being kind of willy-nilly with the registration. You know, you'll push right or down and it'll register the other way. And I really wasn't having any of that, especially if you're going to pay $60 for a Pro controller. It needs to be top of the line. And if you're going to call it Pro, it needs to be Pro. But this one's really solid. They even have a little sticker that covers the buttons, just so that you know you're the first one to push these buttons. And so I chose the classic Super Nintendo colors style for it. And as you can see, it's got that shape of the Super Nintendo controller with the addition of these 2 thumbsticks and the grips. And like I said, this is really similar to a modern day Xbox One or PS4 controller as far as gripability and all that stuff. A few last things in here. There's a little kind of instruction manual that tells you how to charge it, how to sync it with your device. And again, those are in English and Chinese. And finally, you've got your USB-C charging cable. This is the same charging cable that all of your Nintendo controllers use, including the Super Nintendo Switch Online Super Nintendo controllers, which I have 2 of those. And so it's exactly the same. So I'll just keep this as is. And it's got a nice little pixelated heart mark, which I guess is their logo, and just kind of a cool touch. Anyway. Like I said, it's built really nice, and these sticks, I mean, just looking at them, you can tell they're way more solid than the sticks on the Joy-Cons. And I gotta say, I know I'm not the only one too. I'm super frustrated with the poor quality of those sticks. They're smaller and shorter than any other modern controllers, and just normal wear and tear after a few months. I mean, I got mine slightly after launch, and I used it pretty much every day since then, but I've got Xbox controllers I've had for even longer, and the sticks work fine. So I don't know what Nintendo's problem is with their manufacturing process or their design, but it's super faulty. And I even went and did the tricks with the electric duster. I used the air duster, and I also used the sort of like liquid electronic dust remover thing, and you spray it under the flap, and it works fine for a while. But after a few weeks, you start to see your icons drift across the screen, and it's just so frustrating when you paid $80 for a pair of Joy-Cons and they're virtually unusable. And so I'm really happy with the way this is built. These sticks feel super tight and springy, and I'm so used to the looseness of the Joy-Cons that these are a joy. No pun intended. These are so much better. Plus you've got the original Super Nintendo style, and I guess NES style D-pad. You've got these great buttons, good clicks, not a whole lot of wiggle. There's some wiggle, but there's some wiggle on the originals too. And your start select buttons are really chunky and really pleasing to push down. One thing to note, while this controller does have a screenshot button and a home button, the icons are slightly different. As you can see on the screenshot button, there's a star, and on the home button it's their little heart, their pixel heart logo. But they have the same functions. And you'll notice on the bottom it's got the little light indicators for which number controller this is hooked up to the system from 1 to 4. And so it's got the original L and R buttons on the Super Nintendo controller. Aside from the sticks and the home and screenshot buttons, this central part of the controller is almost exactly like the original Super Nintendo controller. It's got the same L and R buttons, and it's got your little sync button to sync with your Switch, and the little charging port. So it's virtually identical to the Super Nintendo controllers that they released for Nintendo Switch Online, aside from the sticks. But the fact that there's a home button, which why they decided not to include a home button on the Super Nintendo controllers for Nintendo Switch Online, baffles me. I love using that controller so much, and I have such a hard time when I want to switch between games because I have to plug in my Joy-Cons because they have a home button. And it's really silly. I don't get it. Finally, I want to talk about these triggers. They've got RL and then R2 and L2 as how they're labeled. They're not Z, ZL and all that. RL and ZL and RL or whatever they are on the Joy-Cons. I always found that naming confusing, but these triggers are also very satisfying. They've got a lot of good spring to them. They're pretty big. I think overall this controller is going to be much better for people with bigger hands. I've got kind of smaller hands, I suppose. I've got office worker hands. So I've never had a problem with that. But this one, despite my smallish hands, this one fits pretty well. And these clicks are so satisfying. But so I'm really pleased with this controller. And I hope you found this helpful. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and found it informative. If you've been on the fence about whether to buy an 8BitDo controller, straddle that fence no longer. Just dive in and get one, because these little guys are awesome, especially when you consider they're about 2/3 the price of a Switch Pro controller, and it doesn't have any of those D-pad problems I've heard so much about. But I love this thing. It's awesome. I haven't used it yet. I'm just talking about the build and the design, how it feels in my hand and how the buttons feel. And so far, I absolutely love it. In the meantime, I'm going to finish the rest of my birthday playing with this and just enjoying myself. You guys have a great day too. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time on Game.